Hey everyone. So this week I've been watching the new Netflix show Cursed, and I thought I'd give my thoughts on it. I'll be doing the review in two parts. The first part will be spoiler free. Well, I'll try and keep it as spoiler free as possible, and the second part will be spoiler, so full spoiler. And that's for anyone who's already seen the show. Just a heads up, when I am talking about spoilers at the second half of the video, I'm going to be putting this spoiler logo in the bottom corner. So whenever this logo's there, I'm in the spoiler section of the video. Whenever it's not there, I'll be trying to be as spoiler-free as possible. Now, if you haven't seen the show, and you're watching this review to try and see if you want to watch it, I'll be making a recommendation at the end of the spoiler-free part of the review, just to let you know whether you should watch it or not, in my opinion. Of course, there's nothing stopping you watching the whole video, even if you haven't seen the show. If you don't mind about spoilers, well, fair enough, I know some people don't. Last thing I'll say before I get into the review, make sure you hit the subscribe button if you want to see more TV and film analysis from myself. I upload a video every Thursday, as well as a dark rewatching podcast every Monday, and sometimes I'll put an extra video up, like this very video. Okay, with that being said, let's get into the review. Cursed is Netflix's newest fantasy TV show. It's based on a graphic novel by Frank Miller and Tom Wheeler. It's a retelling of the Arthurian legend, and as such, it has characters that we're very familiar with the names of: Merlin, Arthur, and Morgana, to name a couple. And it follows the main character Nimue, who's a part of the Fae people of the Skyfolk clan. Nimue is played by Catherine Langford, who you may have seen in 13 Reasons Why. She has great magical power, but she's unable to control it yet. Despite this, she gets chosen by the gods, or they call them the Hidden, to be the next summoner of the clan. Now, although this is a great honor, it seems that Nimue is a reluctant hero, and she decides to leave her home clan. She travels to a nearby city of Grimmaire, where she meets Arthur, who's played by Devon Terrell. However, this is not an Arthur we've seen before. He's not very honorable, and he also appears to be a thief. After using her magic to win a gambling game, Nimue flees the city and goes back to her home. When she gets back to the clan, it's under siege by the Red Paladins. In the story, the Red Paladins represent the Christian church, swooping across the countryside, killing all the Fae and burning down their villages. The Christian church views the Fae people as lesser than them, and as such are trying to eliminate them from existence. So with her clan mostly dead or scattered, Nimue begins a journey in order to fight for the Fae people against the threat of extinction brought about by the Red Paladins. Her journey begins when she's told by her mother to take a sword to Merlin. So that sets up the story. I'm not going to say any more about it in the non-spoiler section, but I'm now going to give my brief overall thoughts before moving into the spoiler section. Okay. I'll start with the good. Cursed does a really good job of building a world. It felt different to other recent fantasy series like The Witcher or Game of Thrones, which are a lot more muted in palette and lit a lot darker as well. Cursed isn't dark. It's really vibrant and colourful, especially when you're in the worlds of the Fae people. I like the design of the Fae people. Obviously, some of them are humanoid, so they just look like normal humans, but some of them have antlers, some of them have tattoos, some of them have strange shells on their head. They're all different. All the clans have different looks, and that's to symbolize in real life, I suppose, the parallel with the Celts. Now, in the Celts, every clan would have different traditions, different stories, different languages sometimes in different parts of the country. So the Fae people really hammered home this comparison. The Red Paladins, on the other hand, are all very monotonous. All have the same red cloak. They're all human. They're all singing off the same hymn sheet, if you excuse the pun. Speaking of the colours, there's a constant dichotomy of red versus blue. Red Paladins in the red cloaks, and the Fae people always have a blue or greenish hue around them. Nimue herself wears blue. From the offset, this decision seems to be more akin to Lord of the Rings, say, than Game of Thrones. In Game of Thrones, you don't know who the good guys are, who the bad guys are. Everyone's sort of grey in their morality. Whereas in this, like in Lord of the Rings, there's very much a good side and a bad side in terms of the point of view that we're following. So just to summarize, I like the costumes, I like the settings, I like the design of the world, and that's pretty much where it stops. In the spoiler section, I can get into more details about what I liked, because there were certain aspects of other things I liked, but I sort of need to spoil some things to tell you those, whereas now I'm just going to get into the general things that I didn't like. So, the biggest thing that I didn't like about this show is the writing. It was weak. It was so weak. Actually, it was not only weak, it was also really inconsistent. I mean, they were making certain decisions for certain characters that made absolutely no sense whatsoever. It seemed that certain characters, like Nimue for example, had a different motive every single episode. They didn't actually focus in on one thing that they were trying to accomplish. Now, you might think that this is actually an argument for realism, because no person in real life has one thing they want to accomplish. They have lots of facets to their character, to their personality. That's not the case here. You could never know what she wanted. And that is really not good for your main character. Us as an audience are on the journey with them. Now, obviously she wants the Fae people to survive. And yes, she's inexperienced at leading, but I just didn't believe the decision she was making. That was just me. Just before we leave the topic of Nimue, I just need to say this. I didn't believe Catherine Langford in this role. I didn't believe her as a warrior. I didn't believe her as a witch. I didn't believe her as a romantic interest with Arthur. I just didn't believe it. I can't put my finger on why that is, and maybe it's just I've typecast her in my own mind as a modern-day teenage girl like she is in 13 Reasons Why. I found myself just waiting for her to take her mobile phone out and ring her friend or take a selfie. It just didn't buy that she was actually in medieval times. I mean, this was a character who was meant to be the wolf blood witch. You know, she's meant to be fearsome, meant to be heroic, and I don't know. I just didn't get it. Another big issue that the show has is that it has payoff moments that just weren't set up enough. There were moments that happened between certain characters, and I just found myself not caring. I understood, based on the story, that certain characters had love interests with each other, certain characters didn't like each other. It's just in the moments, the big moments that we're meant to be emotionally affected by, I wasn't invested in these relationships, and it just wasn't built up enough for me. Having said that, there are certain characters that I did like, and certain relationships that I did like. I'm going to get more into that in the spoiler section because I'm going to have to give away too much, but it's not all doom and gloom here, but it is for the most part. Another point is, the pacing of the show, in my opinion, was all off. It was too quick. The show was trying to do too much. They were trying to do a Lord of the Rings thing with a sword that corrupted the user. They were trying to do a World War II thing or Salem witch trials thing where the Fae people were hiding from the Nazi-ish Christians. It was just a lot, all wrapped up into one. And I just felt like they didn't actually spend time to stay in a zone and get to know the characters. It was just bang, 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 bang. It felt like 4 books just put into 10 episodes. Now, maybe that's a criticism of the book, the graphic novel by Frank Miller and Tom Wheeler, but I haven't read that. And as a series, it just felt like we didn't dwell enough on certain aspects to build the characters, to build the story. It just felt as if it was all rushed, and we were supposed to go along for a ride with it, but we weren't emotionally involved. We weren't emotionally invested in it yet, and it just, in my opinion, fell flat. And I'm saying this as a true fan of fantasy. I mean, I love The Witcher more than I thought I would, to the point where, actually, this is how much I liked it. My wife bought me the books for my birthday. I mean, I haven't read them yet, but she bought me them, so I did like it. Lord of the Rings is one of my favorite films of all time. Game of Thrones, up until a certain point, was fantastic. I just love fantasy. And I love that there's a fantasy renaissance going on. And I'm glad that Cursed has been made to continue that fantasy going. However, that's all it is to me. I'm happy it's made. Hopefully people like it. I personally didn't like it, but that doesn't mean it won't find its audience. Cursed has got something to offer. The world, the vibrancy, the costumes. I liked that aspect of it. I really did. I will be honest though, if I wasn't planning on writing a review for it, I probably would have stopped after 3 or 4 episodes. I maybe wouldn't have, but I think I would have. I've got what I needed from the world. I got the vibrancy. I got the colors. I got to see the creature design. You know, I'm all for the world building as well, so I appreciated it from there. So my recommendation would be, only watch this show if you like The Witcher, you like Game of Thrones, and you like the world of fantasy. Having said that, you still might want to stop after a few episodes. After you've got that from it, you might just say, hey, I've seen what I need to see. The characters aren't very good. The writing isn't very good. But I saw some cool costumes, saw some cool creatures. That's all I needed. Alright, now I'm going to get into the spoiler part. Now, I'm going to start off with the pacing, because that's where I left off in the spoiler-free part. So, why was the pacing so bad in my opinion? Now, there was too much going on. So we had a fire in Nimue's clan, then she leaves, goes to a abbey. I actually really liked this abbey part. I liked the tense setting of Nimue having to sneak in and listen to the Red Paladins. I really enjoyed that. I liked the meeting of Morgana. I liked the sneaking of the Fae medicine onto the Red Paladin in order to save him. I enjoyed that. Having said that, if this was a Game of Thrones, that would have been a whole series. We would have had time to sit there. She would have been developing as a character. We would have been meeting more people. Morgana would have been more fleshed out. We would have got to know her partner before she dies and then comes back. It would have meant more to us. But no, we get Nimue moving on very quickly. Then she goes on to find out that Merlin's her father. Fine, that was fine. Okay, I'm happy with that. That was an okay part of the story. Well, I say it was okay. Nimue's whole thing, apparently, was that she wanted to honor her mother's wishes and give Merlin the sword. And that's what she's been doing the whole time. Then when she gets to Merlin, she's like, nah, I'm not going to give it to you. I didn't understand these decisions she was making. It really did feel like she was just changing her mind willy-nilly. Also, the whole character development we got with her relationship with her mother implied that she didn't listen to her mother. And she sort of had a chip on her shoulder with her mother. As soon as her mother died, she didn't question anything her mother ever did. She would say, oh, mother must have known she wanted this to happen. But this wasn't what we had established their relationship to be. Why wasn't she questioning it? Why wasn't she thinking, why would she want me to do this? It was all about doing it. Of course, then she just didn't want to do it for some reason. Further on in the story, we get Nimue as a sort of Daenerys Targaryen figure. She becomes a queen, and then they go to Grimaire. She gets a throne. I felt this was so rushed. Game of Thrones took Daenerys from nothing to a queen, and it took 4 or 5 seasons before she was properly commanding the court, before she was properly giving orders, she was properly there. Nimue goes from being a teenage brat, so to speak, not listening to her mother, running away from home, to being a queen, a regal queen, giving orders, negotiating with other kings, talking about her advisors. This happened in like 6 episodes. I didn't see this development. Where did this come from? It was like, oh, we want to have like a Daenerys-style queen now. Okay, let's just do that. Go. There was no consistency across the series. I just don't get it. Another thing is, I really wasn't on board with this relationship between Arthur and Nimue. It just came out of nowhere. Like, they had one scene. Yeah, he sang to her. Okay, that maybe makes her feel a certain way. Then she was like, no, I don't want to talk to you. Then he taught her how to fight or dance or something. I don't know. And then he stole her sword. And then it seems they're okay again. Well, they seem to be getting on all right. That is until the Green Knight comes along and Arthur gets really jealous because she knows another guy. And this Green Knight, apparently she knows him, Gawain, an old family friend apparently. Even though we were told Nimue doesn't actually have any friends because they all bully her because she has the devil inside her. So there was absolutely no explanation about how she knows Gawain. Why is he no longer there anymore? He's just, apparently from her past, from the place that everyone hated her, she has this best mate from the past. What? This just came out of nowhere. Okay, last thing I'll say about this relationship. Did they really need to have a hot tub scene? This gave me horrible, horrible flashbacks, PTSD from that scene in 13 Reasons Why. Why would you take Catherine Langford and put her in a hot tub? No one's got good memories of that. Alright, I'm aware I'm being really negative, but there are a few characters that I actually liked. I really, really liked the Weeping Monk. Now, I've seen someone on Reddit, I can't remember who said it, so I can't credit the name, but I saw someone who said this character is basically Kylo Ren. From Star Wars, obviously. I think they are exactly right. And to be honest with you, I liked that. I liked that this monk was given depth to his character. Now, for a long time, he was just a big bad guy who's killed everyone. But then you find out, oh, he's actually Fae, and he has been whipping himself, just like the guy in the Da Vinci Code. This monk. It's like an Opus Dei monk, and he is really, really committed to the Red Paladin's cause. I really like this sort of development in the story. This character got character development. And then by the end of the series, when we reveal, now I will say as well, a little pat on the back to me, I predicted that this was Lancelot. I predicted this was Lancelot from about episode 4 in. He was the only person I could see who could possibly be him. I knew that Lancelot was going to come up somewhere, and I don't know, I just picked the right horse. But I like that reveal. I like that character has history. And to be honest with you, that part with Lancelot, as well as the Morgana storyline, where she has the spider inside of her and she's sort of now she's death, basically, the widow. I like those two things. And now that maybe Nimwe's dead, I don't know. Maybe I'll watch season 2. Maybe I'll give it a go, because I like the Lancelot stuff. I think he had good character development. Carden's dead, thank God for that. Morgana's storyline is interesting. I don't agree with the choice to have her face on show so much when she's death, but, you've got an actress. It makes sense to do that, I suppose. But there is enough in that last sort of 10-15 minutes of the series. Now, it wasn't a strong finish by any means, don't get me wrong. But in my mind, I can see some potential. Now that Nimwe's out of the way, for some true character development and some deep characters. I don't think Arthur's there yet. I do like his background story. I do like that he come from nothing, so to speak, and his uncle sort of cast him out. I think there's something there. But we haven't seen anything from Arthur yet, which makes me invested in him, if I'm honest with you. I think if we got the scenes of him and his uncle, and where his uncle accepted him for the tournament, if we had got that in like season 3, after 3 seasons of Arthur trying to get his love, it would have been much more rewarding. That was one of the moments where I thought there was just no payoff. Like there was no build up for a payoff. And that unfortunately happened quite a lot. I also didn't like the way that Merlin only got his powers back at the end when he held the sword. Merlin ended up, for me, being a bit of a nothing character. I mean, yeah, he did quite a bit, and I really liked the scenes in the underground. I can't remember the name of the people, but the underground area with the king, with the jewel in his eye. That was really cool. I love that. I love the name drop of Boudica when they were giving her the necklace. That was all cool. But Merlin himself, I didn't really get a gauge. Like, we learned about his past. He was slaying the Romans in the past. But there was no real depth there yet. We didn't learn enough. Maybe in season 2 they'll go deeper into Merlin's character. But we didn't get enough. I personally would have preferred to see Merlin get his powers earlier on. Having said that, when he got them back, it was pretty cool what happened. Like, there was, in terms of action, in terms of that, it did come across. I can see that there's a potential in that Merlin for bringing a pretty cool character in season 2. Having said that, do I think that the show's going... I keep saying about season 2. Do I think the show's going to improve in season 2? I'm very doubtful. There was honestly moments in this show where my wife and I looked at each other and just started laughing. There was decisions that these characters were making that just made absolutely no sense to us. Having said that, as I said in the spoiler-free section, I'm glad it's made. But now, let's move on to the next fantasy show. It kept the ball rolling for fantasy. I'm ready for something else now.